How are y'all? I'm gonna go blast out the link for this real quick. I was waiting on dinner, so. Yeah. All right. All right. How is everybody? How's everyone's leading up to Canada Day weekend? Actually, it's Canada Day tomorrow. It is Canuckle Day tomorrow. Are you all excited? Do you have any plans? Do you have anything fun, exciting planned? Good times? It has been an interesting week. It has been an interesting week. Let me say that. Now, initially, I was figured I was going to be just talking about one super fan that I gained over this past week. Oh god! I also don't know how long I'm going to be able to stream, be able to do the podcast for today, or to what degree of energy. Because I'm not sure if you know this, but Quebec is on fire currently, and they're giving the absolute wonderful gift of wildfire smoke to the entire eastern seaboard. So, I'm caught in this and apparently getting secondhand smoke crap from it. So, yay. Love that, especially with the 30-plus degree weather that we're getting every day. Oh my god. I'll try to do my best to limit my coughs as much as I possibly can, but I cannot promise anything. Holy cow. Hello, Nivo. Hello. I saw Blaze Firestorm here earlier. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hopefully, y'all are doing okay. Hopefully, you don't have wildfires near you. That is kind of important to not have. I'm far enough away from them so that it won't do anything to like my area. But except like blow smoke at us and just make it ridiculously hard to breathe. That's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. I also found out, apparently, I haven't set this up yet, but apparently Blurp has interactivity with YouTube now. So I'm going to try to set that up for next stream. And so all of you crazy people from YouTube that like the blurps, I'm going to try and get the blurps set up on the YouTubes. And you guys can go crazy on the blurps here too. Now it should be super fun. Lots of good times. But yes, we've had some interesting interactions this week. Now, there's one situation that I will discuss a little bit about, and there's another situation that I wanted to stay out of, but people just can't live without my opinion on things, apparently. So it's going to tie into the topic of today's show. We're going to talk a bit about sophistry today. For those of you who don't know what sophistry is, it's arguing nonsense for the sake of arguing nonsense. It's you have a point that you want to make, and it is generally a ridiculous point that you could not argue normally. And so instead of having an honest argument, you argue to a point that will get the person to agree with the point that you want to make. And you take a dishonest stance in order to do so. This is a sophistry argument. This is sophistry in a nutshell. And it works very, very well on Twitter. There's a number of people that employ this tactic on Twitter. There's a lot of them that you guys have actually seen, you guys actually know. You've seen it firsthand. Hello, Shiny Evolution. Cosplayers Game Corner, how are you doing? Welcome in. So I've seen a little bit of that this week. I saw one person trying to entrap me in an admission, which didn't go very well, considering I operate on facts, I operate on the truth, and I don't operate on fictional bullshit that people make up. So they can keep trying. Not going to go very well for them, but they can keep trying. So there's another situation that's popped up recently. You just came back from your trip to a TCG event? Hey, let's go. How'd it go? Hopefully it went well. And there's another person that decided that they wanted to drag me into a situation that I've been just keeping an eye on, but avoiding. Edgy Bobby and Patrolman, hello. Welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. So I'm going to give my 2 cents on that situation, too. Because apparently, people really, really want to know my opinion on it. So much so that they drag me in when I have a neutral take on the situation. You met the original voice actor for Professor Oak? Hey, that's so cool. Dark Strange Nico, hello. How you doing? Hello, hello. So, to start off my week, it was really funny. I had so you guys remember last show, right? I was talking a bit about the Pokemon community game stuff and how all that stuff's going. We just started, Nico. Just kind of giving a rundown about everything. Again, I don't know how long I'll be going because my throat is like destroyed from all this wildfire smoke that I've like imbibed this week. That's wonderful. It's done wonders for my voice. I'm gonna sound like a Bouvier. Pretty bad, but no, we'll talk. We'll go until I can't chat anymore. Yeah, I had like a mild fever. I'm pretty sure it's from the smoke though, because it's causing congestion in my chest, and I'm fairly certain it's from the smoke. Because like I don't feel like I have a cold. Like my nose isn't stuffed up. It's just like chest congestion, and my throat's scratchy, and it's like nothing else. So, but I think my fever is under control. I haven't tested it, but. So if you guys remember last week, I was talking a little bit about the Pokemon community game stuff that's been going on. Very interesting stuff that is happening there. Oh my, it's Dark. Hello. Hello, Dark. Very interesting stuff that's been happening there. Might actually have an update this week about some more stuff that's been going on. I don't know. We'll see. But again, I will talk about it as things happen, and I will talk about it like in real time on Twitch when I find out, and if there's something important that happens, I will make a point to talk about it on the podcasts on YouTube, so you guys will be in the loop, provided I get updates about said situations, or find out updates about said situations. But yeah, so this past week, I had a very interesting individual reply to my podcast announcement, asking how a certain person could be streaming. They didn't even specify. They said, how can this person be streaming when they're in jail? Which, if y'all watched my show last week, that is not something I said at all. I never claimed that anyone was in jail. I never claimed that anybody was prosecuted or anything had gone past being investigated at this point. Never claimed anything like that. So it was very, very interesting to have some Johnny Random lot of numbers on Twitter commenting like that, trying to get me to say more details about specific things. So, brief on the back and forth. This was very much what happens on Twitter a lot, and why it works. Why it works is because people on social media, and this happens in real life too. Like this is like normally what happens when you deal with someone who's like private investigators and stuff like that. People who are not police, but this is how private investigators get information. You watched the stream from last week, and there's no way you said that even when you were watching through the replay. Exactly, Dark Strange, and it didn't make any sense. So I knew right away that this person was intimate in the situation. Like, I knew this person was an alt Twitter account. I knew this person had intimate knowledge of the situation that I've never discussed on the channel. Hello, Action Toys! And I know that this was an attempt to disrupt the investigation by trying to fabricate some stuff that was going on. So, right off the bat, like, this is something that I understand. I can see these signs, but most of the people on Twitter, most of the people on social media don't pick this up right away or at all. And some people tend to just fall for this shit constantly. So I decided I wanted this to be a topic to talk about this week because I think it's very, very important to teach you guys how to respond to these situations and how to pick out these situations, because at the end of the day, and again, this is a tactic for private investigators. They will act as though they are a certain level of authority, right? Their demeanor, their tone, their line of questioning. It's the same thing with like people who work in collections and stuff like that. They will assert a level of dominant conversation towards you, and most people will just go along with it. Most people will just give up answers willingly. Most people will just go along with it. And this is happening a lot on social media, and I don't quite understand why. Because you as a person, you have a lot more rights to your information. wrong dark. You have a lot of rights to your information that you possibly may or may not know. If some random person came up to you in the street, right? Just think of Twitter as being like the public, right? You're walking in the park when you're on Twitter, right? Some random person walks up to you. They're not wearing a uniform. They're just, regular ass looking person, and they demand to know your name and your birthday. What would you say in that situation? What would you say in that situation? Would you just freely give up your private information to this random person in the park? And if the answer is no, then you got to question yourself, well, then why would you do that to anybody on the internet? Why would you do that to anyone on social media? So you are under no obligation to answer questions from people on the internet. Period. Regardless of how assertive they are, regardless of how authoritative they are, you are under absolutely no obligation to provide any information to literally anyone on the internet. It's the end of the day. They can even claim that they're officers. They can claim this, whatever. If that's fine, then go through the courts, get a court order, get a police order, get something, get a warrant, get the information. Like, it's better to say no. Exactly. It's better to walk away. I didn't know she was married would be my answer, and then walk away. Oh my god, action. Sometimes the best answer is no answer at all, because 9 times, like I would even say, like, mostly 9.9 times out of 10, people who are engaging in this type of behavior are engaging in sophistry. They have no interest in facts. They have no interest in the truth. They have an agenda that they want to get a soundbite for. They have an agenda that they want to get a gotcha for, and they will do whatever they can to get you to go along with it. They will argue nonsense to wear you down. They will act as though that they are being rational, and they will do everything that they can to make you seem irrational. But at the end of the day, Twitter is Twitter. Right? Twitter is Twitter. Public is public. Who cares? At the end of the day, some person comes up to you in the park and starts making an absolute fucking scene because you won't provide your personal banking information to them. They're going to look like more of a fool than you ever will be. Now, on Twitter, it's much easier to make it look like there's a group of people that are supporting this one individual, which is usually the same person, or it's a person that's part of the group of people. So you want to make sure that if someone's demanding information from you, you just have to realize you owe nothing to anybody on the internet. Now, I was being demanded information from by this weirdo about where I was getting my information, blah, 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 blah. And they were giving out very, very specific details about a case that they alleged was private. But if that was the case, then they shouldn't know that information. But they did know that information. So it's hard. It's one of those things like for regular people out there, I can pick up on it. Other people can't pick up on it though. But if you want a lesson in how to turn these arguments on their head, take a look at that thread that I had on Twitter. Take a peek. Because you'll see exactly how to turn this around. You ask, like, it's a very political way of dealing with it. It's a very political way of dealing with it. You have to answer their question with other questions. Try to get them turned around on their own bullshit, basically. So when the person was saying, it's like, well, you know, how do you have information about a private investigation? It's like, well, how are you giving out private details about an investigation that I've never said anything about? And the person says, well, you got it from your podcast. And it's like, well, if you watch my podcast, you know you'd be full of shit because I never said anything like that. I never said anything like that in any of my VODs. Never said anything like that in private or public. Nothing. So I don't know where they're getting this information from. So the entire purpose, from what I saw, of this individual was trying to gotcha me in a situation that would implicate that I had somehow gained illegal knowledge about something that had been going on. Now, again, the information that I get could be from direct sources, could be from indirect sources, could be from me divining it, could be me reading tarot cards, who knows? It's irrelevant because the stuff that I'm talking about is factual. I don't report on speculation. I don't report on stuff that's not factual, and I definitely don't report on anything that would impede a public or private investigation. That's something that people don't understand either. Even if an investigation or a court case is public, there are certain details about said case that even if you have knowledge of through completely legal, normal means, it's also best not to share that because you also don't want to tip off potential avenues of how people are going to be investigating or what they're investigating or who or where or what or why they're investigating it. So sometimes it's best to leave certain things not talked about because that way you're not compromising anything. And I go the super safe route. There's information that I have that I'm not obligated to keep private, and there's information that I have that I could absolutely just talk about and do willy-nilly whatever. I choose not to because I don't want to potentially impede anything like that, because justice first, in my opinion. I don't care if it's going to get me views. I don't care if it's going to make me popular. I don't care if people are going to think I'm super cool because I did something edgy. Justice first for me. That's number one. There, in terms of the PCG situation, in terms of the Pokemon community game situation, there are children's safety involved, and I don't fuck around with that. So I'm 100% the entire reason that I am going so hard on Pokemon community game and the people behind it is because they refuse to be responsible for the children that they have in their community. Somebody has to, and I will hold them accountable for it. And that day will come. So, anybody else out there in the weirdo clique that wants to come after me and try to say something wrong, try to say that I've done something wrong and implicate themselves as being an accessory to this, please do. Because I'd be happy to provide your information to the law enforcements that are looking into it as well. as a person of interest. I'm certain that they would love to talk to you. Hello, Blight Blazer and Randy Scribner. How you doing? How you doing, Randy? How you doing, Blight? Not even once. Yes. Yes. This is why you don't tell people where you work, just like what happened last time when you did cosplay Karen caused the drama and pinned you for crimes that you didn't do. Ew. Ew, Blight Blazer. Well, this is the thing. It's like, on the internet, realize that anything and everything that you do on the internet is potentially viewable by somebody else. Every booby pic that you send, every dick pic that you send, every foot picture that you send, every naughty message that you send probably has been viewed by somebody else. Hello, Kyle. How you doing? Nothing is sacred in the realm of the internet, and that's just the way things are. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. So when you're talking to or about stuff, just be aware of what you're talking about. Be aware if you're sharing information that you don't want to be out there in the internetosphere, then don't talk about it. Realize that you don't have to answer every single person that tweets you. Realize that you don't have to, pipe into every single situation that's out there. You don't have to. Even your feet pictures, yes, oh my god, I said Blade Blazer. Action toys, yes. Even your feet pictures. You're a freed or nothing, more or less. True. It's just I don't understand why people can't understand this concept. And also, okay, we're gonna get into this in a minute here. You wanted to start an OnlyFans with your feet pictures? Hey, you could do it. You could do it, Nivo. I wanted to briefly talk about VTuber stuff, because I think this is very funny and very weird at the same time. Now, some may call me a VTuber because of what I do on Twitch. I don't have affiliation with any studios or weirdo bullshit like that. I'm technically, I guess, I don't know if I'd be considered a VTuber or not. I don't know. But the whole idea of these like studios employing women that have childlike voices to voice cartoon characters on the internet and blah 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 blah, and then like literally create this parasocial relationship. Like, that's the entire business model. There are independent VTubers, I know, but like I always thought that a certain, I'm not going to name names because whatever. I always thought that a certain Pink Rabbit was independent, and then I found out very recently that she isn't. That she's part of one of these billion faceless Japanese corporation things. That's like, okay, cool. I don't understand why every single freaking one is attached to some fucking Vishoujo bullshit. Like, these companies are scams. At the end of the day, they are scams. They pay people to watch them. They make it look like they're popular. They're idol companies. That's what this entire culture is over in Japan. They have people that are professional idol fans, for God's sake. It's all fake engagement. And then you get people whipped into frenzies and get super stalkery because they're looking for people like that stuff. And from what I understand, there was a situation with a YouTuber and one of these VTubers that boiled over because the YouTuber doesn't understand VTubing. Doesn't understand that the VTubers have incredibly psychotic fans that will do anything to try and find who they are. You saw that go down. It was pretty insane. It's such a stupid thing. It really is such a stupid thing, honestly. And I don't like. Let me just say this. When I VTube because I don't want to do my hair and I don't want to wear pants. That is pretty much it. There is no like I want to become super rich and famous and ooh woo and all this other shit. There's none of that. It's literally comes down to I don't want to get prepared to go on stream and look like a supermodel every time that I go on stream. So I'm gonna just slap up a picture, in this case a VTuber rig, and that's it. Well, in this case it's a picture, but who wears clothes while streaming? You. Well, I mean, there's a little thing called TOS, unfortunately. Well, who wants to wear pants in 31-degree weather? Oh, we're getting a mini F here. Hold on. YouTube. Okay, YouTube's clearing up now. This is what I mean. It's like, who the hell wants to wear clothing in freaking 30+ degree weather? Give me a break. It's like it's a nice little way for me to not have to, you know, look like I can walk out of the house. I can wear my Walmart clothing. I can wear clothing that I would wear to Walmart and stream, and no one would know. So that's why I VTube. And I understand like some of these people like apply and all this stuff, and they work really hard to get into these companies and blah 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 blah. And for the large part, it's fine, you know. Go out, make your bag, go for it. But it's a very weird culture. It's a very weird situation, and I don't even know why a VTuber would collab with a YouTuber, to be honest, because they have their own group of people, and they have they literally have people that are paid to watch them, and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, well, I don't know why they would branch out like that unless they were independent and struggling to get viewers. But hey, you're wearing nothing but underwear in your house. You're too hot. It's damn right. You're damn right. So that stuff is just weird to me. That stuff's just weird to me. I don't know. Like as someone who is like pseudo VTuber, I think people. I don't know. Y'all do you, is what I'll say to that. Y'all do you. Because that shit's weird, and I don't think the streams should cross. Just, you know, if you're going to, it's like with anything when you're an employee, right? If you're say you're an employee for I don't know, Google, right? Say you're a Google employee. You can't really go around and do stuff that's like, and then be like, I'm a Google employee. Look at me. Look at my connections. I got Google stuff, and then go and act like, you know, sacrificing babies in the freaking evening news. You can't do that because there's a degree of what Google will say. Okay, you can do, and then there's a degree of that Google will be like, all right, you know what? Knock it the fuck off. Stop bucking around. So when you're signing up for a company like Vishojo or whatever other company, insert billion freaking companies that there are, when you're being an idol like that, whatever else, you have a certain responsibility, regardless of how little creative input said company has about what you do. So I just think that people should be a bit more responsible with themselves. Be a little bit more responsible about themselves, which brings us well into our next topic. So how much of the social media sphere have people been intaking over the past week? I will ask that very briefly. Because there's been there's been a lot of stuff going down. There's been a lot of stuff going down. Now, when I first saw the OCA podcast's thumbnail about how they were going to have this person on to talk about you just post sometimes to talk about a certain situation, I saw the photo, saw the allegation or whatever it was, and I'm like, you know what? Cosplayers not even once. Cosplayers not even once. That is my catchphrase. That is my go-to. That is something I will live and die by. Well, it was that little phrase. You know, to switch over to your phone, no problem. It was that little phrase that got me dragged into a situation that I had no interest in discussing. And I had really no interest in, like, paying attention to, because the entire thing just sounds ridiculous. But hey, here we are. So, cows have crossed, as some would say. Cows have crossed. I don't know if y'all remember way back in the day. This is going back deep in some Canuckleheads lore here. Back in the day when I talked about Quentin Flynn and his psycho stalker, Chrissy. And that absolute hilarity that ensued when we read the court documents of her failing miserably after getting exactly what she asked for. She wanted to get Quentin Flynn in court, and she was going to slam dunk on his forehead, and she was going to win everything in the world. And she got blown out. Balloons are attacking you on Twitter. Oh no, Nivo. Is it your birthday? Is it Nivo's birthday? Happy birthday, Nivo, if it is. You got the birthday balloons. So, well, it was a little while ago, Action Toys. This is the funny part. It doesn't feel like it's been that long ago, but it has been a little while ago. So that was an entire saga of lunacy that we saw play out in real time. And to this day, so Quentin Flynn is still getting he's still getting tapped on the shoulder for roles. He's still getting appearances and blah 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 blah. All of that stuff worked out for him. Worked out for him very, very well. Now it would appear that Quentin Flynn's little stalker has been trying desperately for the past few years to be relevant once again. After the order of protection expired, she's been trying desperately to regain relevance and be a topic of conversation again. Really hasn't had much traction at all, even though she's been posting more furiously than Greg Doucette. Which is an achievement in itself. But recently, there is an individual. Midnight just passed. Hey, happy birthday, Nivo. Recently, there is an individual that had allegedly been working with Vic Mignogna. And had been in some degree of relations with Vic Mignogna that went on to OCA's podcast and intended to do a tell-all. I'm not entirely sure how that went. I got in about halfway through, so and was saying that she was going to show a whole bunch of stuff and blah 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 blah, and how she just wanted everyone to get along and kumbaya, and she doesn't want anybody canceled, blah, 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 blah. So my cardinal sin in the entire situation was not blindly believing women, and not just blindly going and joining the kumbaya drum circle. That was my cardinal sin. I'll admit that. All I said was, I don't think that this should be getting attention right now. And Twitter's a very unique place. The reason why I'm saying this is, like, I think that she needs to, like, calm down, regroup, figure out what she wants to say, make sure that she doesn't sound like a raving fucking lunatic, and then come back and put it out there and say what she wants to say. What I don't think she should be doing is hooking her wagon up to people like Mars Girl. I don't think that she should be hooking her wagon up to people on Law Twitter and KickVic and stuff like that, getting all this negative reinforcement and getting her whipped into a frenzy so that no one's going to believe a word that she says, because it's all coming and it all sounds exactly like the crap that Monica and Ron have been saying for whatever else. It just makes it sound like this is some giant fucking operation that's been in the works for years, and some entrapment fucking honeypot bullshit. That's all it sounds like. That's all it sounds like. Now, I've maintained from the beginning, there could be some truth. There could be some interesting bombshell things that could be learned about from the information that she had. And it's possible, it's possible, but again, now I have to question all of it, because she's basically wrapped around the finger of people like Mars Girl, wrapped around the finger of people like Ron Toye, etc., etc. And for someone who appears to be easily manipulated, or at least from all of what she's said, appears to fall for gaslighting very, very easily, now I have to question everything. Isn't KickVic over? No, it's never stopped, Randy. It's never stopped. There's a whole new degree of crap that's going on now, and it's just like I just shake my head. Like I said, if this was a bit more well presented, a bit more thoughtfully provided, instead of just, I've been slighted, so now I'm going to reveal everything, like, it would be more palatable if it wasn't that, and it's been even less palatable now that the players that have been in this situation the whole time have latched onto it and made it their thing. Basically, again, I tried to stay out of it. I've been looking at it to try and see objectively what could be true, what is true, what isn't true, etc., etc. It's hard to tell at this point, especially considering that there's so many people in there trying to grab hold of things and try to conflate things and everything else like that. So it's just like, okay, unfortunately. When you have somebody that's dominating a conversation, and you have Mars Girl in the chat complaining about how they're not letting her talk, which is clearly not the case because she's the only one talking, then yeah, it's all right. There is a question mark, because Mars Girl is upset that the person that is apparently sharing her story isn't sharing the story that Mars Girl wants to share. So that raises questions for me about all this sort of stuff. And again, unfortunately, we're never going to get the right fucking answers, because there's way too many goddamn people in there that want to have their own little fucking piece of the cake, and they're going to keep dragging shit every which goddamn direction, unfortunately. So that's That's where that is. So I had that group of individuals coming after me. Funny because they tried to drag up old Kick Vic bullshit against me yet again. I mean, like the big gotcha. The big gotcha that they had was that I'm a furry, and then I drew furry porn. I mean, yeah. What's your point? And they're trying to dictate to me my own original character. It's like, no shit. I am a cartoon Umbreon on Twitch. Yes. Next, please. What is your point? You a furry? When? Like, I'm not that degree of a furry, Nivo. I'm not like. Now I understand that there are degrees of furries. Because like, I'm probably the most vanilla furry out of anybody. Because there is some like degrees of furries. They're desperate for attention. Oh yeah, no, that's definitely what it is. I'm not entirely sure like what the payoff for this is, like idol worship or whatever else. Like this person claims that she has a ton of money and that money's not a factor. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't care. You obviously are doing this for a reason. Otherwise, like you would not be doing this. And I don't buy for a second that it's just because he cheated. He allegedly cheated on you. I say allegedly because, like, again, it's a situation, the same situation I had with that toothless weirdo, where I literally don't believe anything at all that they say because they've just been lying about so many things. Like Kate, exactly, Nivo. Exactly. Exactly. So, I don't know. I guess time will tell. This is why I wish that the damn thing would have just gone to the fucking courts. Even if that's the case, is it really worth dragging it on social media? It really isn't, JT Plays. It really solves nothing. Like, what I gathered from the OCA podcast and her discussing it, and I was trying to pay attention to like everything from her tone and what she chose to discuss and her reactions and her body language. I was trying to pay attention to that. What she seemed really upset about more than anything else, more than the actual situation itself, was that people weren't upset that when they found out that Vic cheated on her. She seemed more upset that people didn't care that he cheated on people than the actual cheating. Like, this is what I don't quite understand, and this is what I've been trying to kind of wrap my head around. It's like, okay, the entire discussion around that was trying to demonize him and trying to say that it's psychotic that he had a second relationship that he hid from her, and like they hid from each other, and trying to equate that somebody cheating is the same as hiding a family in your basement. I mean, that's a bit of a nuclear stretch, I think. Just a tiny bit of a stretch, I believe. I mean, this is, I mean, again, like, I don't follow true crime like most of these weirdos do, and it really feels like this is some kind of true crime fantasy. But like, people get cheated on literally all the fucking time. Like, quite literally all the time. I've been cheated on plenty of times. Do I think that the person that is cheating on me and carrying out like a second life and whatever else is some like psychotic Joker level like murderer? No, I don't. I just think that, you know, it's shitty that they did that. It would be simple if people have any problem with us, they confront us and have a conversation as long as I don't get hurt. I mean, I agree. That would be the ultimate She says that she never sent his fans at detractors, but now is saying he plotted Mars Girl to be ended. That he never sent his fans at detractors. Hello, Vork. Yeah, so there's an interesting situation, because I was around for that part of the discussion. Like, I was watching the podcast for that part of the discussion, and I was watching the Twitter feed when she was discussing that too. So she initially claimed, just straight out of nowhere, that Vic had told her, directed her to off Mars Girl. And now later on, I believe it was on Twitter, she had clarified that she had actually asked him, without naming names, she asked him if he had ever considered or wished that somebody would be offed, and he said yes in regards to that situation. Whatever else like that. Now that's a big difference between someone directing you to do something and someone and what actually potentially happened. Another reason for Mars Girl to play victim. This is what I'm saying. There's a lot of very weird parallels. Like, there's a lot of very weird things that are happening here, right? So she says that she claims that she's not a clout chaser, which is fine, whatever. Fine, cool. I don't care if you're a clout chaser or not. It doesn't matter to me. She says that she's a porn star. I asked one of my friends, who is probably the biggest porn connoisseur I know in my entire life. I asked him if he has ever heard of her or seen her before. And he laughed and said, "Are you serious?" Because of the name. And so he went and looked her up, and he's never seen or heard of her before. From what I understand, she had started up her own porn company, or like porn shooting company in Los Angeles. Maybe not Los Angeles, California, somewhere. I think it was Bakersville or whatever. And she had shot two photo shoots. And she claims that her manager is this company, and she apparently is the owner of that company, so she's her own manager. Which, I mean, again, fine. But I don't understand where the conflation is. And if she's making money, then good. If she's making a lot of money, awesome. Good for her. Happy for her. Go out and get your bag. Do it. But again, this whole like drive to be important, this whole drive to be like more grandiose than when nobody asked. Nobody at all asked. So like that's the other part too. But then the pieces that just don't make sense for me. The pieces that don't make sense for me are the fact that out of everybody, because she said she went to this convention and she wanted to learn how to get into voice acting. So she picked Vic's line out of everybody that she could have talked to about getting into voice acting, or, just a Google search. She picked Vic's line to go into to ask him about how to get into voice acting. Who also happened to be, she admitted that she didn't know what Vic looked like. She didn't know who Vic looked like, or like what Vic looked like. She thought that he was like some wrinkly old man. And when she saw Vic for the first time before getting in his line, she said to herself, "I'm going to fuck that." And then apparently chastised herself for having an intrusive thought. So again, all of these things are very odd responses for someone who is, in this particular situation. So, as fate would have it, she picks Vic's line to go into. Asks him how to get into voice acting. Apparently has a moment with him. They have a hug in the elevator. They apparently develop some sort of relation across a 5-month period. Hello, Ragnarok Knight. How are you doing? At no point, and this was something that I will give credit to the OCA podcast. They did ask this several times, but at no point did she ever state that they had a conversation about being in a relationship. Hugging the elevator was Mars Girl there too. I wouldn't be surprised. This apparently happened in 2019. It apparently happened in 2019. So, apparently at no point did they ever have a conversation about being in a relationship. Take that for what you will. Over 5 months or whatever, however many times they saw each other. She states that Mars Girl did say she saw Vic in an elevator making out. It's true. I mean, I don't know. I'd have to go check the dates of when Mars Girl claimed that happened, but it's very potentially it could be the same, but it's also more plausible that it wasn't. I find it very suspicious that this individual that had only known him for so long did no research into his background, had heard about the stuff that had been going on with him, and just instantly stated that she was going to run defense for him, and that they were going to, that she was going to create quote-unquote Vic's army to go after people who were against Vic. Apparently, none of this Vic asked for. Apparently, Vic didn't ask for any of it. So again, after all of this stuff had happened, she had apparently found out that Vic had a girlfriend, confronted him about it, and got upset. From what I can understand, because the conversations until there is like, and she says that there's really no proof of this because it was all verbal. It was over the phone. It was never text messages. So like, there's really no proof of what was said or how it was said or what have you. But basically, until I can see some kind of evidence showing that there was these conversations having taken place, more or less, what seems to be the case is that Vic went back to Haley and decided to go monogamous for Haley instead, and decided to cut ties with this other individual, that was the point of what set her off. It wasn't the fact, from what she said in the OCA podcast, if you haven't watched it yet, guys, go check it out. I would suggest taking a look at it just to see her words in her own words. So I'm not paraphrasing. But basically, from what I understood, was that she wasn't upset that Vic went back to Haley. She was upset that Vic cut her off because that was what Haley wanted him to do. He basically promised Haley that he wouldn't be talking to any other women. And that is what was the point. That was the breaking point. So, I mean, it's possible, Vork. It's possible. Like, is it within the realm of possibility that Vic is capable of cheating on somebody? Apparently, Michelle Speck says it was. Apparently, the situation in the hotel room, the hypothetical hotel room situation, etc., etc. Is it possible? Potentially. Potentially, it's possible. Do we know the truth? We're never going to know the truth, unfortunately. We're never going to know the truth because people are being dishonest and conflating things at every fucking turn and have no interest in telling the truth. They have interest in telling their truth. which is not reality. Reality lies somewhere between everybody's truth. So, unfortunately, from this is from what I could gather from this podcast. Now, do I find it extremely suspicious that out of everybody that this person could have reached out to, she reached out to Mars Girl? And that Mars Girl was paving the argument that everyone should just be kumbaya and that she was going to be the bigger person and not attack anybody anymore. And then all of these details are revealed about how all of these things, it was just a very oddly coincidence of events. Very, very weirdly set up series of events that just didn't make sense. Do I believe that Squally is running Vic's socials? Sure. I mean, it would make sense if Vic has no time or doesn't have the savvy to run social media, which the man doesn't know how to start a Twitch stream, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he's paying people or he has people running social media and stuff for him. It's a non-factor. It doesn't surprise me. Plenty of celebrities do that. Plenty of celebrities like to keep a layer of separation from themselves and their fans, just because of certain situations that creep up. Do I believe that? Yeah, Shatner does that. Pretty much like any celebrity on Twitter basically does that. They have people that take care of that stuff for them. I can't believe you can even email. The email, I 100% believe it's him, though. 100%. It's pretty funny. But yeah. Do I think that all of it, like all of these attacks on Squally and stuff like that, are legitimate? Like, honestly, there is so much targeted bullshit that is just like, why are you even trying to do this? There is so much attacks that are designed to destabilize and separate people and separate support systems and things like that from Vic. It really feels like it's a malicious attempt to destabilize people that are around him. So again, I really, really wish that when she came out with this stuff, that she wasn't just like attached at the hip to fucking Mars Girl and Ron Toye, etc., because those individuals have a history of trying to manipulate things and trying to clout chase themselves and trying to push their own narrative, and that they've been shown they can't fucking let it go. They can't fucking let it go for years. So I wish that she would have had no association with them and had come out with this herself, separated from that. But it taints the entire thing now. It taints the entire thing now. Because now I have to fucking question all of it, and now I can't take anything at face value that's not in fucking paper, in fucking writing, not deep fake bullshit. Cheaters are scumbags, fine, but they are scumbags for being cheaters, but there are people using his infidelity as confirmation of the other darker accusations made against him, yes. Yes, they are. Because it's a slippery slope argument, Ragnarok Knight. It's a slippery slope argument because initially, during, he used the R word once and apologized. I mean, people use that word all the time. Vork, if you are older than 27 years old, you have used that word. Unapologetically, you've used that word because that word does not mean it did not mean derogatory when we used it. Only in the past few years has it adopted a derogatory meaning, and people have started to phase it out. People have used that word for literally decades. And and they have used it in the sense that it's like, well, that's just dumb. That's just stupid. It's been in video games, for God's sake. Final Fantasy VII. When you're running up the staircase, Tifa tells Barrett to stop being an R-word. Like it's literally, it is used in the word rational is not a bad word. Yeah, it's still in the original Final Fantasy VII, Vork. Yeah, if you go to the if you're going to the assault on Shinra, and instead of going head on, you go up the staircase and you run up the staircase. It's like a callback to the Ghostbusters infinite staircase thing, and you're running up and running up and running up. About halfway through, Barrett's like, "I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it. Tell Marlene I love her." And Tifa's like, "Barrett, stop being an R word." It's like it was literally used interchangeably with idiot. Like that's really all it was. And it doesn't mean what people say it means now, and it never did. I mean, it might have back in, like, way back in the day, but it was not like that during that time period. So it's funny you like that. It comes down to intent of the word being used, right? That's really what it comes down to. Like, when it comes down to it, I have nothing but admirations for people that have, like, autism or other yeah, it uses it in Tropic Thunder, exactly. It's like it was interchangeably used in the 90s. And so anyone who's, like, lived a good chunk of their adolescent life in the 90s would use that word. Clicking some YouTube reactions buttons, no problem, Nivo. I see that. The birthday boy Nivo, happy birthday, Nivo. But, like, people are way more sensitive about the meanings, the original meanings of words nowadays. And so it's fine. It's a word that doesn't need to be used. It's a word that can be phased out. But it's also a word that was not offensive at the time of it being used. It's an archaic offensive word that is not been as offensive past the 90s, or at all past the 90s. It was never used in a derogatory manner in the 90s. But I have plenty of respect and admiration for people who are neurodiverse and things like that. So comes down to the intent of what you're using the word for. Like how people on the internet right now, and this goes back to sophistry, arguing that cisgender is a slur. But before I get demonetized for using that term, but that's a sophistric argument. That's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. People can be confident in arguing what they think, but what they think can also be incorrect. They can be very, very confident, and they can be very, 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 very convinced and convincing about what they're talking about, but they can also be wrong. He doesn't say sorry for using that word. I mean, it's a word that can be phased out. It doesn't need to be used anymore. But it's also not a word that has been offensive since, like, the 60s or 70s. Started using it out of anger. It's just dumb. It's a dumb argument, and people, like, I don't like people policing speech. If it's like using a hard R, okay, that's never been acceptable. Hey, Fooden. Would have loved to cover your chats, but a lot to cover. No problem. Honestly, I was actually just briefly talking about your podcast, and I was giving you guys some props. But no, I understand you had a lot to deal with in that one, and you had a lot to unpack in that one. So I totally understand. But thank you. Thank you for popping in. I wanted to take in, because I saw the topic, and I wanted to see firsthand what was going on. And kudos to you guys for kudos to you guys for that, because that was a very interesting situation. Very interesting situation for sure. And we should all just start saying Bob Saget. I've personally replaced it with race car, just because it's much more funny. Someone's been watching the Tourette's guy. I've personally replaced it with race car because it's just hilarious. But you know, people will get upset about literally anything, like honestly. And it comes down to what someone holds as offensive as an individual, which is fine. We can individually be upset about something. Hey, Stacy. I had a conversation already, a little bit of a topic discussion about the one idiot that decided to try and impersonate me on Twitter after getting completely blown out because I wouldn't bite on their attempt to get me to provide information. And I was talking about being dragged into another argument on the internet. You agree that people get upset over the smallest things. It's like, it's big for them, I get it, but like they also have to understand that they're not, like, this is where a little bit of megalomania comes into play, right? And I think that this is what we're seeing in certain situations that are on the internet right now. That there's a little bit of megalomania. There's a little bit of people thinking that they're way more important than they actually are. And whether that is like some kind of illness at play that's contributing to it, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But on face value, because going back to the second topic here, the person in question was doing drugs. They were doing drugs on stream. Like, well, not on stream, but they were closing their camera to partake. And it appears as though they have the telltale signs of someone who is addicted to specific substances. YouTube doesn't like the F word in context. I don't know why it's not showing me my mod chat stuff. Where's my mod chat stuff? Toggle moderation activity. The hell does that mean? Moderation activity. Oh, there we go. I was wondering why that didn't show up. YouTube doesn't like the word friend. Exactly. Now I fixed it. Now I can see it. For better or worse, it fell into your lap and you covered it and tried your best, or we don't and perhaps don't get further clarity. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't fault you guys at all. And honestly, you did the best that you could with what you had. I do think that there is other stuff behind it, which is not something that you guys would have had any prior indication about. I do think that there is more than meets the eye in terms of that type of stuff. But I don't think that we're ever going to get full clarity on it. I hope we do. And I really, really do wish that it could have been a situation where she was not connected with certain individuals so that now we can't take anything that she says that seriously, because it all seems to be driven by a certain group of people who have not let things go in like 6 years. Kind of ridiculous. Your brain doesn't work anymore. You're going to take a nap. No problem, Nivo. Hubris breeds all their sins. True. It's true. How did she know him in 2019 and didn't know anything about the situation until now? The same reason why she slept with another voice actor and apparently didn't know he was married, because she didn't do any research into it. I mean, the simplest answer is the truth. She just didn't do any research. It's either that or she didn't care. Like, one of the two things. Because, like, I don't know how you could not be aware of the stuff that was said, because it was, like, literally all over the place in 2019. It was being discussed constantly back in 2019, so I don't even know how you could miss it, even accidentally, at that point. I mean, again, Vork, I don't like calling out the stuff that she's claimed as her lying, because I don't have proof that she's lying, but I also don't have proof that she's telling the truth. So, like, this is the only problem. And the fact that she's the fact that she's like up the ass of a bunch of people that have been completely dishonest for the past like 5-6 years doesn't lend credence. It doesn't lend anything to the fact that she could be telling the truth. So it's like, again, I wish that she had just waited and had a bit more of a calm breakdown about this stuff that could be disseminated and dissected a little bit easier. But like coming in and making a whole bunch of very, very bold claims, then later walking those claims back and changing the story a number of times is very, very damaging to the ability to believe somebody. So, yeah, she was. I think she was part of that channel. She was part of Channel Awesome. Chaos Smash. She was associated with like Nostalgia Critic and Juwario and stuff like that. So again, like I was open to listening to it, and I was open to believing it. It's just, it's harder and harder knowing that she's associating with certain individuals and just at this point mimicking their fucking talking points from 2019. Like word for word about how, Ron Toye will happily sit down and just hash everything out with Vic over lunch. Like, I had that conversation with him years ago. He said that years ago. It didn't make him look any more hinged then than it did now. In fact, if he doesn't believe that Vic did anything, was she ever mighty? Only on the weight scale. Ichiban Con happened right before it blew up. Well, no, everything blew up in like 2017, right? Everything happened in like 2017. It was just like a lot of like the lawsuit and stuff happened in 2019, 2020. Yeah, and she came in, she's like, Vic did nothing wrong, he's just a whore, and then outright saying that he was doing all these untoward things with young fans. It's like, okay, this is it just smelled like she was getting attention from the certain negative things that was being said, and so she just went at certain points. I sat down for a digital lunch with Ron. I had 3 interviews with that dude. Like, I wanted to like fry my brain afterwards. I was actually supposed to have an offline interview with Monica after the 3rd interview with Ron. We were finishing up our 3rd interview with Ron, and we were supposed to have an interview with Monica offline, and then she backed out of it last second, and then they rescheduled for 2 weeks from then, and then they ghosted the interview. Sorry to hear that, talking to Ron. It was an enlightening experience, that's for sure. That is for sure. It was very different. And I think anyone that actually sits down and like actually listens to the discussions we have can see that Ron is like, there's something deeply troubling in him. I think people can see that there's something deeply troubling with him. Songs with Crumb were the best. Hey, I still have the best songs. They're great. I gotta make more. I haven't had inspiration to make other ones. It was definitely a test in patience, Chaos. It was definitely a test in patience because like you could tell that there's stuff that he wanted to get out as talking points. Like again, it goes back to sophistry, right? There's stuff that he wanted to get out there and he wanted to get agreement on and he wanted to argue. So it was difficult like pulling like legitimate conversation from him and getting like actual genuine conversation from him that wasn't scripted. But I did it. We actually did it. We actually got him to have a conversation that was not on script. And I'm fairly certain that his lawyers got really pissed off about that. And basically advised them to stop talking to us. So it was like 12 hours worth of discussions, but it was in my opinion it was very eye-opening. It was very worth listening to. Cuz like again, Vic was not very happy that I had interviews with Ron, like at all. He was not happy at all. Ron goes on a rant to Twitter and to Nick, yeah. And there's a lot of people that were very, very upset that I had Ron on my podcast. A lot of people are very, very upset. A lot of people that were feeding bullshit to Vic, saying that like I was laughing and joking and having a great time with him too. And it's like not quite the situation that was going on. Not quite the situation that was going on. But again, unfortunately, the second and third interviews didn't get as much attention as they probably should. Because there's some stuff in the second and third interviews that really give you insight into how his mind works. And gives you insight into his like lifestyle and stuff like that, but again, important information to have. Well, that's the thing, Fooden. It's you can't make progress if you don't talk to the other side. Like that's what I wanted to kind of get out of him was what is the real Ron Toye in this situation, right? Because like we've seen what he's chosen to put ahead. We've seen that. What he's chosen to put out there and all that other shit. And that doesn't seem to be like who he actually is necessarily. I was definitely holding back, yes. I was definitely holding back. And I know that because like you're not going to get in that type of interview, you're not going to get anything like genuine out of them if you're just browbeating them. If you're just attacking and like making fun of him, you're not going to get a genuine response out of him. And like everyone knows his talking points because he said his talking points in his deposition, so he got them out. Like, so it didn't matter what he said because he's not saying anything new. So it's like, okay, you're saying the same shit. But then getting the other stuff and getting more insight into how his mind works, how he got to where he was, blah, 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 blah. That stuff is more, in my opinion, more interesting. There's more meat to that. Which is what we got out of it. We eventually, and again, no one can sit there and say I didn't give him the time of day. I had 12 hours of conversation with the man. So people out there that are claiming that I'm a raging alcoholic, I'm autistic, I'm unreasonable, blah blah blah. It's like I literally had this dude on my show for 12 hours. I didn't shut down his discussion. I openly had him on to try and you know, get people to see him and all this other stuff as who he is and what he chose to put out there. Bridge the gap. People on Twitter think associating at all is bad. You can't talk to the other side, but you won't even understand the perspective if you don't talk to them. Exactly. 12 hours is torture enough. Can't say you never tried. It's true. And I tried to get Monica on the show. Even though I was like just flat out, because I flat out told Ron too. I'm like, I'm not your friend. Like I don't like you. Like this is, you know, I'm willing to put that aside to let you say your piece and have a discussion about things with you and blah blah blah. Same thing with Monica. Oh yeah, I've had Stan on the show a bunch of times. Stan's been on the show a lot. Well, like I tried to have Monica on the show. I tried to give her time as well, and she just disrespected it. Remember when Ron went on your Facebook to get a photo of Vic to make fun of? Yeah. So like she popped on for a cameo appearance, I think during the third interview. She popped on Ron's camera very briefly during the third interview. And so like I knew she was home. And she just didn't have the time for the interview after the third Ron interview, which I was gonna go offline and have one offline with her. And then they rescheduled for a different day, and then they just no-showed. So it wasn't for me lack of trying, and I definitely tried to give space to all sides to have a discussion. But there's one side that was not interested in discussing. So, do I think he's the equivalent to a serial killer? No, I don't think he is. Do I think that he has sociopathic tendencies? Yes. I think Monica and Ron saw you had an interview with Vic. That's why they ghosted me. I didn't have Vic on until much later. I had Vic on for an interview much later. She had the time. She just didn't want to get called out like Ron did. Pretty much, Stacy. Yeah. She also had this nobody with red hair, Ragna something. No one liked that guy. True. Or Ragnarok Knight. Like I think I was more than fair to all sides of that situation. I think I'm being more than fair to all sides of this current situation too. Again, like I've been open to hearing the evidence. I've been open to listening to this stuff, and just it's changing by the fucking hour by the looks of it. It's changing by the hour, so it's really difficult to follow something when someone is constantly changing their story. It's really difficult to believe something when someone constantly changes it. No, I wouldn't softball the interview at all. No. I don't softball anybody, really. Like I don't know, and I guess that's probably why. That's probably why I rub people the wrong way. And I don't have that many. Well, I guess I have fans, I suppose. But I have a lot of people that are like really angry with me a lot, because I don't suffer fools like that. That's what I'm saying. Constantly changing stories and details has been an issue from day one. Do you rub people the wrong way? Smelly blight blazer. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see if anything like solid actually comes out. I have my own hypotheses about what's actually going on with this situation. I have my own tinfoil conspiracies about what's going on with the situation. If you constantly change your story, you don't have credibility. Agreed. So, that's my thoughts on it, anyways. But going back to the original point, just to hammer it home. What's your conspiracy? If I had to guess, and again, I have no evidence of this, guys. This is just my gut feeling looking at this entire situation. Because there is a certain farm website that seems to be involved because there is an individual, that individual that's called out Vic for stuff has been directing people to said farm website on her Twitter and how to download all these different programs to browse the website and blah, 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 blah. Very, very suspicious kind of stuff. I believe, and I really hope that I'm wrong about this, because if this is the case, then Josh needs to crack down even more than he already has on people for this. But back during Kitchener Comic-Con, I was approached by people that were from that farming website to join their little Discord group or whatever else, so that they could look into certain individuals, blah 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 blah, and all this other stuff. I have a feeling, because this group of individuals was eventually made up of people from Law Twitter, Kick Vic, and all this other stuff too. Like it turned out to be like people like Emmett Initiative and stuff that were in this group of people and blah blah blah. I have a feeling that this has been a honeypot situation where somebody's been gassing up an individual to go seek out, infiltrate, gather information, and weaponize a community to try and sabotage, etc., etc. It seems like the stuff that's been going on has been very deliberate. Stuff that's been going on has been very highly coincidental with who's involved in it, and highly coincidental on where it's not being discussed. So take that with the grainiest grain of salt. I have no proof. Just my gut feeling on observations about this entire situation. It's just very, very funny that for years people have been decrying a certain website that is only available in certain select areas now. They've been decrying people that go on there. They've been decrying people that use it. They've been decrying people, blah, 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 any association with it whatsoever. But they're the only ones in this situation that have ties to it currently. Mars Girl is a user on that website. There's more people that are users on that website. I wouldn't be surprised if the person calling out Vic is the one that is somebody that's on that website. I wouldn't be surprised if quote unquote Vic's army is made up of people from that website, because they always talk about not being a personal army for people, but they sure do a lot of personal armying for people that don't do personal armying. So that's, and it's not very, yeah, Ron's also on that website too. It's not very far-fetched. I agree, Blight Blazer. It's not very far-fetched. There's a lot of pieces that point to it. Again, I don't have any concrete evidence to say one way or the other, but it's just very, very weird. This is all happening the way that it's happening. And it's all falling into place the way that it's falling into place. And there's one place that it probably should be talked about that it's not being discussed at all. And that is very, very suspicious. So. Tybeard is not on it, or Vic, yeah. I don't think Vic would understand how to access that website anyways. But, you know, apparently it's a cardinal sin being associated with that website. I've been attacked for it and made accusations about XYZ things about being on that website, because it's, you know, the word, you're literally Hitler if you're on that website. Yet everyone that's involved on that side of things is either on that website or involved in that website to some degree. So, you know, hey. All I gotta say is it's very suspicious that people are being directed there. Very suspicious that it's not being talked about there. Very suspicious that in the past I've had interactions with individuals who have offered said sort of services as a bait type of thing to try and get information. So there's all I gotta say is Josh has probably got a clean house, and just, you know, nuke something from orbit there. Make sure that his backyard's clean, because he's got a bunch of people on there that are doing their own thing. Figured she was just someone Vic turned down and got pissy about it. Well, this is the thing, Stacy. Apparently he had some sort of involvement with her. They were apparently never officially dating, quote unquote. There was never, from what I could tell, there was never a discussion about being in a relationship at all, ever. So there was never anything like that. And after Vic went back to his girlfriend and was told to cut off other women, that's when it became an issue. Any idea on which VAs are supportive of Vic? I have an idea. But then again, the voice acting industry is full of snakes, and so they could say one thing to your face and do something else behind your back. So I wouldn't trust any voice actors, to be honest. Just because that's the industry, unfortunately. That's just the industry. They will do what's best for them. Most voice actors will do what's best for them in any given situation. So once you understand that's the case, then you're not as disappointed when things happen. So yeah, pretty much, Stacy. Pretty much from what I saw. Not even that he chose his girlfriend over her, just that he cut her off. That was apparently the tipping point, was when he cut her off. That's what I gathered from her talking about it on the OCA podcast. Which, again, if you have not checked out the OCA podcast, I highly suggest it. Go take a look. They did some yeoman's work on that one, getting that interview, and keeping it as much on the rails as they possibly could. So you should probably check them out. But folks, that's about all I have for today. My nose is itching like crazy. My throat is scratching like crazy. So I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, get some water, get some food, and then I'll be on Twitch in a little bit. Hey, no problem. I'm happy that you guys did your thing. I'll link your podcast in the description when I'm done this too. So no, it was an enlightening podcast, that's for sure. Good to hear your perspective on the situation. Again, like, I'm open to being wrong about this. I really hope that I'm wrong about it, because that would mean the world's a better place and we'd actually get some fucking truth behind the situation. I'm really fucking tired of people pulling fucking gay ops and psyops and whatever ops you want to call it. I'm sick and tired of it. People just get a fucking life and move on. Like, just literally stop fucking acting like weirdos. Stop acting like weirdos. Something about that smoker voice. Tell Quebec to stop being on fire. I would love to, like, not have a fucking Selma Bouvier voice right now. Killing me. It's killing me. All right, folks. That's all I got tonight. This has been another Canuckleheads, and as my final thoughts, guys, just as a final thought, just remember, when somebody, whether offline or online, especially online, when somebody asks you and demands that you give them answers to something, realize you don't owe anybody an answer, period. You don't owe anybody an answer. You only owe yourself and whatever deity that you pray to. That's it. Until next time, everybody. keep your stick on the ice. This has been Canuckleheads. Bye-bye.